A gray rat darts under the apothecary door, its neck bulging with a blackened, egg-sized bubo.
No, it can't be. Yersinia pestis.
Up close, the grotesque bubonic swelling is unmistakable, a horror he knew only from textbooks of the Black Death.
Master Antonio, what month and year is this?
Calm yourself, lad. It is October 1347. Why such dread?
1347. The exact month the first plague ship reaches Messina. I have hours, maybe less. That rat carries death, Master Antonio. A plague worse than any war. We must seal the harbor now.
Plague from a single rat. You speak madness. The galleys bring silk, not sickness.
The fleas will spread it. In a week, this city will be a graveyard. You have to trust me.
In the distance, the creak of a docked ship and the toll of a lone bell. The plague had already arrived. Yuto snatched the rat and a blade from the work table, his trembling hands steadying with cold resolve.
Look at this blackened swelling. Inside are millions of invisible demons. This is how the plague kills.
He sliced into the bubo. A dark, foul fluid oozed out, and Master Antonio stumbled back, crossing himself.
Demons born on the air. This talk will have us both hanged for sorcery.
No, bacteria, tiny living seeds of sickness. Bring me parchment and I'll show you a vision of the cure.
He grabbed a quill and scratched a frantic diagram. Bread mold feeding into a glass vessel, then into a syringe.
We harvest this mold, ferment it, and the liquid it yields will kill the plague's invisible seeds. I swear it on my life.
I have seen strange alchemies in my years, but this, if I aid you, it is my soul and yours on the pyre.
He's risking everything for a stranger's impossible tale. I won't let him die for it.
Beyond the shuttered windows, torches bobbed along the docks. The night was alive with furtive scurrying. The plague had claimed its first foothold. 7 days passed. The plague tore through Messina with a speed that stunned even Yuto. Every bell tower fell silent, save one.
The mold culture is active. If we can extract even a thimbleful of the liquor, it might save a life.
They worked through nights, boiling, filtering, praying. The reek of fermentation filled the shop. On the 8th morning, a woman burst through the door, a small girl limp in her arms. Her name was Elena.
She's barely breathing. The buboes are fully formed. This is it. The first trial.
Lad, if this fails, they'll say we poisoned her. Think of the consequences.
No time for fear. Hold her still.
He plunged the glass syringe into her arm. The blue-tinged liquid vanished under her skin. For a long moment, nothing. Then Elena's eyes fluttered open. Her mother screamed, not in grief, but in awe. Outside, the crowd began to murmur, but awe curdled into dread. A man shouted witchcraft, and the doorway filled with armored town guards. Guards dragged Master Antonio into the street. Yuto lunged forward, but the old man's desperate glance stopped him cold. By sundown, Antonio swung from a makeshift gallows in the town square. Yuto watched from a rooftop, his scream trapped in his throat.
He died for a stranger's impossible science. I killed him.
That night, under a moonless sky, Yuto crept back into the deserted apothecary. The floor still reeked of mold and despair. He gathered the precious flask of penicillin broth, his rambling notes, and the glass syringe, then doused the shelves with lamp oil.
Let them think the witch and his works died here. I carry the real fire.
He slipped out the back alley as the shop ignited. By dawn, Messina was a gray smudge behind him, and the road north crawled with refugees. The fugitive paid no coin, spoke no name. He moved like a ghost bound to a single arithmetic. How many lives per mile of suffering?
Antonio gave his life for one vial. I will not let his death be a rounding error.
The Tuscan hills rose ahead, cloaked in autumn gold. Somewhere beyond them, a monastery held a cellar and a chance to cheat the plague. 5 days later, a ragged figure collapsed against the iron-studded gate of a hilltop monastery. The satchel hit the stones with a fragile clink. Brother Matteo, the young herbalist, found him there, half dead. He called to the gatekeeper even as he pried a strange glass syringe from the stranger's grip.
Easy. Pilgrim, you are safe now. But what is this? Is this glass filled with the breath of angels?
Yuto was carried to the cellar, a cool stone room lined with barrels and cobwebs. When he woke, his first question was not for water, but for bread.
Bread? Do you have bread that's gone green? I need the mold. I can stop the plague if you trust me.
Mold. For the pestilence. Brother, that sounds like alchemy. The abbot will have us both locked up for heresy.
No alchemy. Natural philosophy. I can prove it. Give me a lens and that bread. I'll show you the invisible army that's killing your brothers outside these walls.
Matteo returned with a magnifying lens and a heel of moldy bread. The monk watched, his skepticism crumbling, as Yuto prepared a slide.
By Saint Benedict's bones. I see them, tiny writhing rods. You speak of a hidden world no man has seen.
By nightfall, a crude fermentation rig was bubbling in the cellar, bread molds steeped in broth, the air thick with fumes and whispered liturgy. The first cell of a secret order. Weeks passed, the cellar filled with bubbling glassware and the sour reek of mold. Matteo now handled the syringe with reverent precision. Disguised as pilgrim monks, they carried the blue vials to plague-hollowed villages. Each run was a gamble against bandits and holy suspicion.
Matteo, the eastern village is critical. If we save their priest, the word will spread faster than the sickness.
Word did spread, not of a cure, but of a heretical angel working miracles in the pestilence's shadow. The bishop of the diocese heard the tales. He dispatched 2 canons to investigate the rumors of unholy medicine. In a cramped sick room, Matteo injected a farmer as the door crashed open. The canons stood framed in torchlight, their faces stone. They dragged Matteo before the bishop. Yuto, hearing the shouts, rushed to the church and threw himself at the prelate's feet.
Your Grace, this is not sorcery. An angel showed me the secret forms of life within rot. I am but a vessel.
The bishop, torn between fear of heresy and terror of the plague at his gates, granted a wary pardon, but his canons would watch the monastery. They returned to the cellar, their work now lit by the flame of church scrutiny. Every vial counted, every prayer measured. A messenger, pale and trembling, broke through the canon's watch. His letter bore a black wax seal. Florence was dying.
Matteo, prepare the satchel. If we move tonight, we can reach the city before the gates become mass graves.
They journeyed through the night, 2 hooded figures slipping through the Arno's plague-rimmed valley. By dawn, Florence rose before them, a sepulchre of smoke and wailing. In the shadow of the cathedral, they commandeered a cart house. Yuto prayed open his case of live cultures, a weakened strain he had bred in the monastery cellar.
This is a live vaccine, a tame cousin of the pestilence. Swallowed, it will teach their bodies to fight. We have 12 vials. Choose wisely.
They dosed the dying in staggered rounds. Within a week, families who had prepared funerals found their loved ones stirring, reaching for bread among the refugees. A gaunt girl clutched a wooden doll. Elena, older now, her eyes hollowed by loss, collapsed at Yuto's feet.
Elena, you survived Messina. Drink this. Live.
Florence began to breathe again. The death carts rolled less often. In the streets, whispers of a miracle worker spread like sparrows at dawn. But sparrows do not fly unseen. 1,000 miles away, in the papal palace of Avignon, a cardinal set down his quill and said, "Find this angel within a fortnight." Papal guards seized Yuto and Matteo outside Florence. They were bound and dragged across the Alps to Avignon. In the grand throne room, Pope Clement VI sat under a scarlet canopy. Yuto was thrown to the cold marble floor.
You, who claim to be an angel's vessel, have spread heresy across my domain, defying the Holy Church.
Your Holiness, I only cure. If saving lives is heresy, then I am guilty, but the plague does not care for your canons.
Clement's face was stone. He raised a jeweled hand and uttered the sentence that branded Yuto an outcast from the body of Christ. The papal bull of excommunication was nailed to the cathedral door that very hour. Yuto's name in dark ink, damned before all Christendom. That night, Yuto was dragged from his cell, not to a scaffold, but to a hidden chamber. The Pope waited alone, stripped of majesty.
My nephew lies dying of the pestilence. Save him, and your work continues, protected, but unseen. Refuse, and you burn as a heretic.
This is the price of mass salvation. A secret pact with the man who damned me. I have no choice.
By dawn, the fever had broken. The Pope's nephew lived, and Yuto became a ghost, hidden in the church's vast shadow to cheat the plague. 4 years passed. Yuto's hidden network, backed by the Pope's silent assent, halted the plague at the Alps. Europe was saved.
The dead were buried. Cities teemed. Yet serfdom held. No revolts. The old order stood like iron.
In Milan, the markets bustled with the same goods as decades past. No printing press, no new devices.
The world endures, but it does not change. I stopped death and froze life.
In a monastery library, he searched for future knowledge, anatomical drawings, mechanical diagrams.
Blank pages. Where Da Vinci's notebooks should have sat, only smooth, mocking vellum.
A vision struck, the Vitruvian man fading to void, David crumbling, a clock's hands frozen.
The Renaissance is dying unborn. The labor shortage never came. I broke history.
He stumbled into the street, the weight of salvation transformed into a curse.
Mercy has become a prison. There must be a way to undo this, without undoing the saved.
He retreated to the monastery cellar, stacking mortality records and tax rolls. In the numbers, a pattern of horror crystallized.
A 30% cull. That's what shattered feudalism in my history. Without it, the Renaissance never kindles. Matteo, the plague gave serfs power through scarcity. I erased that. Now, without a new death toll, Europe will calcify into a dark age forever.
You speak of engineering a slaughter? Raising our hand to let thousands die just to break a chain? That is not mercy. It is the devil's work.
I know. But if I do nothing, 10 million I saved will birth a world of eternal serfdom. The devil's work is in the metrics of salvation.
Matteo paced like a caged animal, finally slumping onto a stool. His silence was a surrender, a reluctant understanding.
To kill with medicine. That is the cold arithmetic I must solve. I cannot bring myself to write the equation.
He fled to the chapel and knelt before a cold altar, a man of science on his knees for the first time, seeking a sign he could not name. The stained glass held no answer, only the faint echo of his own breath. The world outside turned, unaware that its future hung on a single man's paralysis.
I have a syringe that could save, and a poison that must be released. I hold both, and I am still.
A Bavarian rider collapsed at the gate, gasping of famine, children dying not of plague, but hunger.
The population surged without the plague's cull. This is my doing.
The numbers aligned into a grim constellation. The famine was the shape of centuries to come.
Matteo, this famine is a preview. Without a corrective die-off, the world will choke on its own survival.
He descended to the cellar. The weaker plague strain, once a vaccine, now beckoned as an instrument of death.
I can breed it, milder. Deadly enough to disrupt, not collapse. A plague that teaches.
Through silent days, he cultured the attenuated strain. Matteo watched, breathing prayers against damnation.
Releasing this makes us murderers before God. But if we do nothing, the future dies. I will help you.
The mathematician says this is optimal. The man I used to be died with Antonio.
He sealed the last vial of shimmering liquid and placed it in his satchel. The die was cast. Under a waning moon, Yuto knelt at a crossroads and opened the first cage. Rats with swollen necks scurried toward the sleeping village.
For each rat, a name, a face I will not see, a death I have budgeted.
Matteo stood at the tree line, clutching his crucifix until the wood bit into his palm. His prayers were silent screams. That night, Yuto dreamt of Master Antonio swinging at the gallows, of Elena's mother wailing, of a white-haired professor in a Yokohama lecture hall saying, "This is the necessary calculus of progress."
I woke retching. The equation had a face.
By week's end, a rider brought word. A new pestilence, marked by blood and bubo but slower, had kindled in 4 hamlets.
It's working. God forgive us. It's working.
He stole away to a sunlit village. Elena, now a woman, pledged herself to a farmer under a garland of flowers.
She lives. Her children will know art. That is the arithmetic I cling to.
Matteo joined him at the edge of the celebration. Together, they turned back to the night, to the next village, to the terrible harvest. 2 years passed. The controlled plague simmered, mortal but not apocalyptic. The labor shortage Yuto had engineered hit the fields.
Lords are begging for reapers. The serfs know their value now. The first crack in the wall.
In Siena, a wool merchant commissioned a painter to capture the city's suffering on a chapel wall. The result was raw, questioning. Yuto watched a peasant boy, hollow-eyed, sounding out letters from a stolen book. The world was learning to read. In a scriptorium, he found a new medical tract. The angelic cures, illustrations of a syringe, descriptions of mold, but no name.
They credit the plague doctors, the church, the stars. Not me. I am the ghost in the numbers.
He locked himself in a cell with mortality rolls and a quill. The arithmetic of a decade unfolded on parchment.
Original dead, near 20 million. My medicine saved 12. My resurgence killed 2. Net saved 10 million souls, and their children will see the future. I have paid in damnation.
Beyond the window, a merchant ship sailed east, carrying a new invention, metal letters for printing. The old world was ending. By order of His Holiness, the new pestilence is God's scourge. The heretic called the angel of the pestilence shall be struck from every record.
They erased even the whispers. The angel is a devil. I am unmade.
He carried his journals, the serum formulas, the mortality charts, to the brazier and fed them to the coals, page by page. The glass syringe, his first tool of salvation, glowed faintly as the fire consumed the words that could damn him.
Without evidence, I am a legend. A ghost story for monks. That is my final vaccine.
You are leaving. The brothers will think you dead. Shouldn't someone know what you did?
No one. The numbers are all that remain. I saved 10 million. I sinned enough to balance the scales. Let them count only the living.
He gave Matteo the empty syringe, a relic of blue glass, and walked through the cloister gate into the mountain mist. His vow was silence. No name, no history. Only the infinite arithmetic of a world he had midwifed in blood and miracle.
I was a doctor. Then, a plague. Now, a seed. The Renaissance is their harvest. I will tend the garden in silence.
The path wound higher into the snow-dusted peaks. Each step a weight shed. He left the man called Yuto in the valley mist. A remote monastery clung to the mountainside like a barnacle. Its bell was silent. Yet a gatekeeper opened the door as if expected, a face lined with memory. The abbot, who had once stored crates of blue vials, met his gaze without surprise. He took no vows beyond a silent nod. His cell was a stone room with one window facing the garden. He poured his knowledge into the earth, wormwood for fever, poppy for pain, and patches of green mold cradled in damp cloth. Each night, he crushed simple remedies in a mortar. The blue syringe hung unused on the wall, a relic, a reminder. Seasons turned. Gray streaked his hair, but his hands never stilled. In the rhythm of roots, he found a silence that asked no questions. Beyond the mountains, the world he midwifed was quickening, merchants reading, engineers sketching, a new geometry of freedom.
I am the ghost who planted the Renaissance. My name is Dust, but the garden remembers.
Brother Yuto was no more. Only an old monk who tended the useful weeds, and in the quiet, let the world forget him. One morning, a leather-wrapped parcel waited on his cell's stone sill. No seal, no name, only the scent of old vellum. Inside, a codex of exquisite craft, its cover embossed with a single syringe, the title, Ars Pestis in gold leaf.
My own hand, the diagrams, the dosages. Someone copied them, illuminated them like a saint's life.
He turned to the final leaf. There, in simple black ink, was the number that had ruled his life.
10 million. The ghost of my arithmetic, written by a hand that knew.
A single tear fell and smudged the ink. He made no sound, the weeping of a man who had long ago spent his grief.
Matteo, or someone he told. The secret is a seed, not a grave.
He rose and carried it through the cold corridor to a hidden alcove where the monastery kept its forbidden texts. With trembling hands, he slid the Ars Pestis between a heretical gospel and a treatise on forbidden stars. It belonged among the dangerous truths.
Let them find it in a century. I will be dust, but the number will speak.
Spring came again to the high garden. Yuto, ancient and featherlight, sat on the stone bench while a young monk tended the green molds. The young monk chattered about a new machine in the valley, a press that could print a book in a day. Yuto's eyes, still sharp, glimmered.
Gutenberg. The words will fly faster than rats.
He leaned back, letting the sun soak into his bones. The garden hummed with bees, each bloom a relic of his buried knowledge. The camera drew back. The tiny monastery clung to the rock. Above it, the white Alps, and beyond, invisible, a continent stirring with ideas. Yuto closed his eyes. His hand, veined and thin, relaxed over a small sprig of penicillium mold. His last breath was a whisper, less than a breeze. The garden rustled in reply, and the young monk paused, sensing a great stillness. The monk crossed himself and knelt. In the silence, the mold continued to grow, indifferent to the passing of its shepherd. Hours later, the abbot came and found the old monk's face at peace, a faint smile still tracing his lips. In the hidden archive, the Ars Pestis waited, its final page glowing gold in a stray beam. 10 million, and a world that would one day understand. Beyond the monastery walls, the world Yuto had midwifed erupted into light. A press in Mainz churned out pages, ancient philosophy, anatomy, poetry. Words flew faster than rats. In Florence, a sculptor freed a form from marble, a patron of that art, a merchant who had survived the milder plague. A Polish astronomer traced the orbits of planets on paper that would one day be forbidden. But in the Alpine library, the Ars Pestis gathered dust. No name graced its spine. Its pages held a diagram of a syringe, a relic from a future that had not yet been, and a single number, 10 million, the silent monument of a man who erased himself from the ledger. The candle guttered, and the book remained closed. Its truth a dormant seed in frozen ground. The Renaissance would not know his name. The textbooks credited plague doctors, miasmas, and God's mercy. But the arithmetic endures. 10 million souls who drew breath, whose children learned to read. All because a ghost once held a syringe. Centuries drifted over the monastery like snow. Wars, famines, and new plagues washed across Europe. But the hidden archive endured. In the age of steam and revolution, a curious historian turned a key in the archive's lock and lifted the codex into the light. His finger traced the syringe diagram, then the impossible number, 10 million. He whispered, saved by a ghost. He published a footnote in a dusty journal. But the world was busy with its own inventions, germ theory, vaccines, and dismissed it as myth. Modern textbooks credited miasma, then bacteria, then the Black Death's demographic shock, never a single man with a syringe. Yet, in the high Alps, the monastery still clung to the rock, a silent sentinel over a forgotten cipher of salvation. The Ars Pestis sat unmoved on its shelf, the gold leaf of its title flaking, the number still legible, 10 million. Outside, a new spring bloomed in the garden his hands had once tended, penicillium mold, roses, and a small wooden bench where an old monk once smiled. His name is not in any chronicle, his face not on any fresco, but in the arithmetic of survival. The ghost remains. 10 million breaths, 10 million children. One ghost who brought modern medicine to the plague era and saved the world from an endless dark age. The story of Yuto is not told in any chronicle. No portrait hangs in any hall. No statue marks the man who bent the arc of the Black Death with bread mold and a glass syringe. But his garden still blooms above the cloud line, a quiet testament to growth after sacrifice. In the Codex, the ink of 10 million has never faded, as if the arithmetic itself refuses erasure. When the next plague comes, as it must, someone will discover this book, and the ghost will teach again. So long as the mold grows and the syringe gleams in some hidden place, Yuto is not truly gone. He is the unseen physician, the mathematician of misery, the necessary monster who became a necessary saint. The Renaissance was not a rebirth. It was a resurrection paid for in secret sorrow. This is the final truth of Yuto, the plague doctor who saved 10 million European lives. His name was erased so that the modern world could be born, and in that arithmetic of sacrifice, we all still live. The weight of his secret pressed the pages of the Ars Pestis deeper into the shelf. Yet the number refused to fade. In the high garden, the penicillium mold spread quietly among the rosemary, a living cipher of mercy and arithmetic. No pilgrim comes seeking his shrine, no plaque marks his cell. Silence is his only monument, yet the world he shaped spins on, a planet of readers, healers, and questioners who never knew their debt. When a child reads by electric light, or a doctor injects a vaccine, the ghost of Yuto flickers in the margins. In the end, the arithmetic is not cold. It is the warm breath of 10 million people who lived to love. He asked nothing, he kept nothing, he became nothing, so that everything could become. The monastery bell tolls at dusk, as it always has, over a world that does not know the debt it owes the silent brother. The syringe still hangs on the wall of the abandoned cell, a relic of blue glass, a promise to the future. The story fades, the number remains, and the world continues because a ghost once held a syringe. In the high garden, the penicillium mold prospers, untended but never truly wild. The Ars Pestis rests in shadow, its final page open to the impossible arithmetic. 10 million, not a boast, but a receipt. A balance sheet between necessary death and necessary life. The monastery bells ring, and the sound carries over valleys that once knew only funeral knells. No pilgrim knows his name. No historian cites his act. Yet, the green mold remembers. In every century, a child survives a fever. A mother weeps with relief. A father plants a seed. This is the real monument, the unbroken chain of those who lived to forget the plague. The syringe still hangs on the stone wall, its blue heart dim but not yet dark, and somewhere, in the arithmetic of salvation, a ghost still holds it, watching over the world he midweft. The ghost who saved 10 million souls and asked for nothing fades into the light, leaving only the number and the cure.